turned upside down in the world of college football. And some coaches finding their seats to get a little bit toasty right now. The only thing that matters really is winning. And I know that Vols fans are upset today. Tennessee Vols fans are upset. And Mr. Judd, who we all know well, is happy that you're upset. But I'm not happy. I picked Tennessee. I picked Tennessee to win over Florida, to break that losing streak. 10 years of no winning against Florida. Make that 11 now. Make that 11. Meanwhile, LSU and Georgia continue to trend upwards in the SEC and upwards in the national polls, trying to see if we can get some SEC teams into the college football playoff. This is one of those years where a conference could produce a multiple representatives for the playoff spots. Pac-12 is the other conference in that discussion. The Big 12 might be in that discussion if you're looking at Baylor and you're looking at TCU as those two teams. So we've got some football to get into, and we've got some stories from the NFL as well. But before we get into any of that, you can listen to us on hotnewstalkradio.com and the TuneIn Radio app. If you have an iPhone, you can go to the Apple Store, an Android device, and you can go to the Google Play Store, download the TuneIn Radio app. It's absolutely free. Simply search for Hot News Talk Radio, give us a follow and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio wherever you go. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. If you search Hot News Talk Radio, those would be your keywords. Also on YouTube, search Hot News Talk Radio. And look, this entire weekend has made little to no sense, because a lot of the things that used to be well-known facts, a lot of the things that used to be what we considered to be a base don't apply anymore. They no longer apply. Teams that always consistently failed me as I watch them, and just hard to watch teams that used to be very, 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 very bad, okay, started showing up in ways that I did not imagine possible. And one of those teams is the Oakland Raiders. Like, I really have been impressed by the Raiders. Derek Carr has been developing as a quarterback. Every time he steps on the field, he grows a little bit more. He shows a little bit more maturity, wisdom, the ability to spread the ball around. And Amari Cooper, who is his rookie receiver, just amazing. Cooper is big, he's strong, he's fast, and he was being covered by one of the best corners in the league in Joe Hayden of the Browns, and he just dominated him. Joe Hayden didn't stop one single pass in that direction, which is incredible because Joe Hayden is really, really good. Joe Hayden is really good. So that among the things that stuck out this weekend. So before, or should I say without any further ado, let's get into the 5 NFL takeaways of the weekend. Now, I wanted to lead the show talking about Butch Jones and Tennessee, and there will be a lot of time dedicated to that. We will talk about Butch Jones later and all of the head-scratching things that he does. But before we get into that, I wanted to go with the takeaways. Just get it out of the way so we can spend time on what really matters. Tennessee Volunteers football. Number 5 takeaway from the NFL this weekend. The 49ers look dreadful, and Colin Kaepernick looks even worse than I could have imagined. In week 1, Colin Kaepernick looked pretty good, and I defended Colin Kaepernick because at the end of last season, he didn't look very good. He looked shaky at best. His decision-making was terrible. He didn't show a great aptitude for going through his progressions and finding his receivers. And what we saw at the end of last season, we didn't see in week 1. And I said, well, Colin Kaepernick has some room to grow. I don't think it's time to give up on him just yet. I think that we do that. Here's Colin Kaepernick. Here's the expectations we have of him. And then when he fails to meet those expectations, we just come in with the sledgehammer and break them all apart. We're like mobsters breaking the kneecaps of people. Just come in and just say, hey, where's my money? Kaepernick doesn't have your money. Break his kneecaps. That's how it feels. He's still a young quarterback learning the game, but his counterpart in Seattle, Russell Wilson, has developed far beyond what Kaepernick has been able to achieve so far. And I think that having that comparison, literally the side-by-side comparison, Russell Wilson is a mobile quarterback that plays outside of the pocket. So is Colin Kaepernick. Russell Wilson has had playoff success, been to a couple of Super Bowls. Colin went to one. So it's not like there wasn't anything there to compare. And usually these comparisons are unfair because one guy's got a better defense than the other guy. No, the 49ers defense is very good, and the Seattle's defense is better, but it's not so much better, especially when we were originally comparing them. It wasn't like leagues better. And we've seen Colin Kaepernick regress. We've seen Russell Wilson progress and become a better pocket passer and become a better reader of defenses. And so we can look at Colin and be, I think, more judgmental and more able to criticize him and pick him apart. Like, why aren't you like Russell Wilson, who is your divisional rival? There was a discussion that was being had between the two of those guys that basically you could take. It was, who would you rather have? Would you rather have Russell Wilson or Colin Kaepernick? I'm on the side of the fence that chose Kaepernick. So I don't think that you judge him yet, but anytime you're 9 for 19, you throw for 67 yards and 4 interceptions in a game, 2 of which were intercepted and returned for touchdowns to start the game, just back to back. It's not a good day for you, and people are going to come down on you. That is a bad football game that you just played. Horrible. And you don't get to leave. You don't get to quit. Like, back-to-back touchdowns for on interceptions that you threw. You don't get to leave that one. You got to sit there and just watch it. You actually have to finish playing the rest of this game, which you, honest to goodness, really there's no chance of you coming back. And he threw 2 more interceptions that day. And they got beaten by the Cardinals 47-7, which leads me to my number 4 takeaway of the NFL weekend. The Arizona Cardinals look for real. They're 3-0. Carson Palmer looks like he looked before he got that knee injury in Seattle. And then even last year, Carson Palmer is a really good quarterback. And we keep forgetting that because he's always injured. But if he's able to stay healthy, the Cardinals are an amazing football team. That defense is fantastic. And their offense is so wide open. The way they move the ball down the field, it's aggressive. And you can credit their head coach, Bruce Arians, with that. He's a very, very talented offensive mind. We saw a little bit of that when he was in Indianapolis. Chuck Pagano got diagnosed with leukemia, and Bruce Arians stepped in as the interim head coach and opened up that offense and made Andrew Luck shine in a way that Andrew Luck has not really been shining since. That since Bruce Arians left, that offense in Indianapolis doesn't look nearly as good, and Bruce Arians got hired as a head coach in Arizona, and he looks good. That offense looks good. Larry Fitzgerald, who is a wide receiver who we haven't seen Larry Fitzgerald play good football in, gosh, has it been 2-3 years? Kurt Warner, when he was in Arizona, that was the last time Larry Fitzgerald mattered. Was that 2009? I mean, that was a long time ago. I think that was 2009 when they went to the Super Bowl against the Steelers. That was the last time Larry Fitzgerald looked relevant. And it's not his fault. He plays wide receiver. He can't throw himself the ball. And the Cardinals had a stretch there where there were quarterbacks that, I mean, you just looking at these guys like, who are you? I could throw the ball to Larry Fitzgerald. Could somebody pay me millions of dollars to just throw the ball to Larry Fitzgerald? He's a great receiver. I feel like you just throw it up there and he can go get it. But you just had bad quarterbacks on that team. Just guys that could not get him the ball. At one point, they were starting Ryan Lindley. Heavens. So Larry Fitzgerald, now with the quarterback that's able to get him the ball, last Sunday, 9 catches for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Amazing. He looked great. That whole team looked great as they basically trounced the 49ers 47 7. In our number 3 takeaway of the NFL weekend, the Broncos have a new identity. The Denver Broncos have been a pretty solid defense lately, but this defense that they're playing now, absolutely stifling. They crush people. And the formula for this Broncos team, defense, defense, and more defense. They won their week 1 game without scoring a single offensive touchdown. They just played such amazing defense. Their defense scored points. That's amazing in and of itself. You can rely on your defense to put some points on the board for you. It's going to be a very, very hard team to beat. And when you add Peyton Manning being the quarterback, and Peyton Manning has been more, as of late, more of a game manager than he's been in his career, which isn't to say that he is a game manager, just that he's been more of that than he had been previously. Peyton Manning is a guy that he can take over a game at any point simply because he is able to find weak points in a defense and shred it to pieces. So Peyton Manning can take over at any time. He's more of a game manager than he had been. We have this negative stigma to guys who are game managers because, I don't know, the manliest option would be obviously the quarterback that takes over the game. But sometimes taking over the game is not required, just not losing it. Don't cause any turnovers for me. Don't make my life more difficult than it has to be. And that's the other side of the ball. The Broncos beat the Detroit Lions 24-12 last night. Matthew Stafford of the Lions, that man has been a turnover machine this season. Someone has got to get in his ear and talk about those turnovers and protecting the football. I think he tries too hard to make plays and extend plays, and he leaves the ball in dangerous positions. He got strip sacked at one point, and then he got intercepted in a number of occasions where he threw the ball into very tight windows with throws that are very difficult to make, and it just put his team in a dangerous spot. You cannot do that. You have to protect the football. Peyton Manning has been able to do that. So even though he hasn't looked amazing and like his former self, he's still playing football at an exceptionally high level. Another thing that I love that the Broncos have done is that they put Peyton Manning into the pistol formation, which, if you remember, a lot of the read option plays there came out of the pistol formation. Pistol formation is basically shotgun formation. You were back about 10 yards behind the offensive line. You're about 5 or even 7 in the pistol formation, and then you are protected on either side by fullback, running back, multiple backs. So that added extra protection for Peyton. He was only sacked once last night after being sacked 7 times in the previous 2 games. Peyton was able to use that extra protection to find Owen Daniels for a touchdown and Demaryius Thomas for a touchdown, and even a number of big throws to Emmanuel Sanders. So he was able to utilize that. And also, getting Peyton from underneath center and having him stand up means Peyton can stand up and look at the defense. And once Peyton is able to look at a defense, look out. A lot of times those plays are over before they even start because he knows where to go with the ball. And that's just having an intelligent guy at quarterback. And Tom Brady joining other folks in the record books, including Mr. Peyton Manning. He joins the 400 touchdown club. Tom Brady has thrown 400 career touchdowns as of this past weekend, joining Peyton Manning and Brett Favre, of all people, in the 400 touchdown club. Drew Brees is very close. I believe Drew Brees is at 398 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. And that is going to be him joining that club soon. But he missed his last game with a swollen rotator cuff in his shoulder. He looks like he's going to be able to play next week with some pain, but that's just how it is in the NFL. You either play through the pain or you don't play. Really, everybody's hurting. But he's that rotator cuff in his throwing shoulder. To me, that seems serious. I would recommend. I'm not a doctor or a medical professional. I would recommend not playing. I would say, you know what? Rotator cuff, throwing shoulder. This is something that I need. But the Saints are in a situation where they can't afford to lose any more seasons. So Drew Brees is going to try and tough it out next week, and we'll see how that goes. But I have serious doubts. And the number one takeaway of the weekend is going to be right around the corner. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Hot News Talk Radio. If you simply search for us, our Twitter handle is at Hot News Radio. And stick with me here for the number one takeaway of the NFL weekend and the college takeaways and some honest-to-goodness Butch Jones talk. We need to sit down and find this man a common sense tutor. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, and myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
That smells so good. Smells like a big Italian dinner. But you're going to walk out with two. Buy one hot pizza, get one for free. 2 pizzas. You got the 2 for the price of 1 at Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. My favorite Italian restaurant of all the time. Now, I'm living in Hicks, and I go to Raphael's right down the street in Hicks and Pike, right near Highland Plaza. You're in Saudi Daisy? Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria in Saudi Daisy. Just next to Saudi Daisy Church of God. Hey, you're on Signal Mountain. There's a Raphael's Italian Restaurant and a Pizzeria. It's right on the main drag. You're going to love the pasta, the pizza. Buy one hot pizza, get one for free. 2 pizzas. You got the 2 for the price of 1 at Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Tastes so good. Bring the whole family. Come on, Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Mangia. Salute.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. My guest this week is former Congresswoman and candidate for the presidency, Miss Michelle Bachmann, who'll be here to talk about just how big a role beliefs play in forging public policy. Don't miss the always controversial Michelle Bachmann this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. I just put up a question on the Facebook page. Search Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook and answer this question, because I'd really love to hear from everybody. How do you feel about Butch Jones after this weekend? If you could respond to that post, please. Butch Jones, head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers. And Tennessee fans were very excited about him last year. And it's interesting to see how quickly everyone is turned on Butch Jones. I mean, hard. Butch Jones is, if you could jump off the bandwagon faster, you'd be flying. Butch Jones had so many supporters like 2 weeks ago, and now there aren't any. Things have gotten so bad for the Volunteers, which is weird because it's not like the season's over. You know, there's still time to make a good showing. I know that things look tough, but it's not like the Volunteers were going to be going to the national title this year. And we all know that. They might have had a good season, even won the East, but I just didn't think they were going to win the SEC. And I certainly didn't think they were going to a national title. And the things that Butch Jones has done that's getting him criticized, look, they're not unreasonable things. The things that the fans are saying, the things that people are angry about with him, they're reasonable. Like usually I get on fans for jumping on and off bandwagons, and I get on fans for turning on guys. And for instance, I get on Falcons fans all the time for turning on Matt Ryan. Here you have a perfectly good quarterback, a top of the league type guy. He's not top 5, but he is top 10 in terms of not just numbers, but his ability to win football games and make plays. And Falcons fans still want to run that guy to town. Like who are you doing better with? Who is better than Matt Ryan that you can get right now? Nobody. Stop it. But in the case of Butch Jones, I'm not saying that there's somebody available that you can get right now that's better than Butch. But man, that whole thing just blew up in everybody's face really quickly, especially his. Butch Jones and Chip Kelly have a similar aura about them, not in terms of their likability, because I find that Chip Kelly is certainly more unlikable than anybody for whatever reason. People just don't like Chip Kelly. People like Butch Jones, sort of. We just don't have enough of a resume behind him. And it's not like people are rooting for him to fail in the same way as Chip Kelly, but people do get that feeling that Butch Jones feels like he's the smartest person in the room. And I don't know that that is a feeling that goes over well with Tennesseans, especially when they're not winning and especially when they're not beating Florida. When they're not beating Florida, that's when things go really sideways. So we'll talk more about that coming up in the next segment. But right now, we're going to finish the NFL takeaways and also begin the college football takeaways, including a little bit of a rundown of the picks that Mr. Judd and I had over this weekend. I'm not going to go down all of them, but I will post them on Facebook later today, and you can look at those, comment at us, laugh at us and our picks, because some of these went horribly wrong. I mean, gosh, that Oregon-Utah. But we'll get there. Number one takeaway of the NFL weekend is all of the teams that are 3-0 are teams that I did not expect to be 3-0, with the exception of the New England Patriots. The Atlanta Falcons are 3-0. Didn't see that one coming. Not going to lie to you. I really hope that they would improve a lot. Dan Quinn as their new head coach. He's very intelligent, very smart, bringing a defensive feel to these Atlanta Falcons. And you know what? Julio Jones has continued to be amazing, and the Falcons are 3-0. The Oakland Raiders, I talked about them a little bit before. They're 3-0. Amari Cooper, Derek Carr. Charles Woodson is still in the league, and he's still a Raider. Unbelievable that Charles Woodson is still playing football. Charles Woodson, how long is he going to stay in the league? Like, is he the new ageless wonder? That's unbelievable that Charles Woodson is still playing football and making relevant football plays on the football field. Like, he's not just there as an old legacy guy. Like, he's actually still playing football and well. What? Okay. All right, Oakland. The Raiders have my attention. They do have my attention. The Arizona Cardinals, who we mentioned earlier. Carson Palmer's looking good. Larry Fitzgerald looks like Larry Fitzgerald of old. And not only that, but the defense. Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu, that defense looks incredible. And the Carolina Panthers, who are 3-0. It's not the most shocking thing that the Panthers are 3-0, though. If you look at the other teams that they have played so far, they haven't played anybody with regards to good quarterbacks at all. I'm going to pull it up here for you in just a second. But the Panthers have started off strong. Cam Newton, not just looking like Cam, he's looking like Super Cam. Cam Newton scores a touchdown on the ground, throws 2 more touchdowns in the air, and he's powering the Panthers here. And I was shocked by this because Kelvin Benjamin goes down as his wide receiver. Did not see that coming at all because I was afraid for the Panthers that they wouldn't be able to score points. Like passing to who exactly and with what? I didn't see that coming. Not going to lie. Did not see that coming. And of course, the New England Patriots, who no one is surprised about. They keep doing what they do. Tom Brady joins the 400 touchdown club. And the Patriots, Gronkowski, Bill Belichick, scheming and outwitting everybody. They continue to roll. They continue to roll. And another NFL news bit that's a little noteworthy, not necessarily the most headline-grabbing thing, but Ben Roethlisberger, well, in terms of performances, Ben Roethlisberger is injured. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, and so Michael Vick makes his return as NFL starter in this league, and that's incredible to me for a variety of reasons, but mostly that Michael Vick seems to keep hanging around and finding work. Like, Michael Vick has probably the most interesting career arc probably ever. He's the number 1 pick in the draft. He's the most unconventional quarterback. He doesn't really throw the ball. He runs a lot. He scores a lot of touchdowns. He's got speed that you wouldn't believe at that position. And Michael Vick continues to confound. He gets arrested for the dogfighting charges. And then from the dogfighting charges, Michael Vick comes back. He turns his career around. He works with animal rights activists as this sort of penance to his dogfighting days, and then leads the Eagles back to prominence, and then gets run out of town by Chip Kelly. And then he was gone for a little bit. And now he's back. Michael Vick is back in the league as an NFL starter. So the Carolina Panthers, to start the season, have played Jacksonville, Houston, and New Orleans, starting the season with Blake Bortles, Brian Hoyer, and because Drew Brees didn't play last week, Luke McCown. That's not a bad way to start if you're going to start. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So I'm not really, really surprised the Panthers are 3-0, but I didn't think they'd be scoring the way that they have. But Cam Newton is going to drag this team kicking and screaming all the way to the top of that division, the NFC South. Now for the 5 college football takeaways. Number 5, Michigan football starts to make its comeback as it blanks number 22 ranked BYU in a 31-0 rout. They scored all of their points in the first half, including 24 points in the second quarter. Jake Rudock had 14 of 25 for 194 yards and a touchdown. And Davion Smith, the running back, carried the ball 16 times for 125 yards and a touchdown. Michigan looks like they could be the real deal under Jim Harbaugh. They look like they could be the real deal. And I'm not saying they're going anywhere this year. You know what? Rome wasn't built in a day, and you can see it with college football programs. Coaches need time to bring in more of their guys, to institute their system, to institute their culture. But I'll tell you what, nobody's better at doing that than Jim Harbaugh. If you look at how fast he even got to the NFL and was able to turn that around, there was a good team in place already there, but they were underachieving. And if anyone is able to institute their culture very quickly, Jim Harbaugh's that guy. It's all about culture in these sports in a lot of ways. If you're used to losing, you will lose. You will be more likely to accept losing. And you cannot do that in these bottom line sports where the results matter. Nobody cares that you tried. Everybody just cares that you won. Number 4 takeaway of the college football weekend, TCU miracles its way past Texas Tech to stay in the playoff hunt. Trayvon Boykin with the monster game, putting up video game numbers, over 400 yards passing. I like Trayvon Boykin to win the Heisman Trophy. I've liked him since the very beginning, but I'm hard-pressed to find somebody that's going to top Leonard Fournette right now. Leonard Fournette keeps stomping on top of people like Godzilla running through Japan. So at this point, I don't even know what to tell you, except that I hope that Boykin keeps balling out, but I can't honestly look at the way Leonard Fournette plays and say that Trayvon Boykin, even with this huge performance, passes Leonard Fournette. But I will tell you one thing about this game, which is that TCU, before this game started, they were 7-point favorites over Texas Tech. And we all know the way that TCU scores points. And as far as the Big 12 goes, TCU is actually one of the better defenses in that league. And TCU allows 53 points or 52 points to Texas Tech, who has a history of being bad. And I know that Kingsbury's been a very good coach for them so far, but I mean, come on. And We saw that point line, and Mr. Judd and I scoffed. We thought there was going to be a whole lot more than 7 points. And Texas Tech surprised everybody, and TCU needed that miracle just to win. They don't cover, though, so Mr. Judd and I are both wrong on that one. 3 points. I mean, I don't bet, actually, so that's good for me. I didn't lose anything there. That would have been tragic. That would have been absolute tragedy. But TCU maintains their playoff spot inside of the college football playoff. Number 3 takeaway from the college football weekend. The Pac-12 looks really, really deep. I'm not saying they're better than the SEC just yet, but they are catching up. UCLA, Utah, Oregon, Arizona are all top teams, and UCLA steamrolled Arizona 56-30, proving to be a very legit team. I did pick UCLA. Mr. Judd picked Arizona. Arizona was the 3-point dog at home, and UCLA just went haywire on them. Arizona was a 3-point favorite, at home, and UCLA just took them to the shed and laid a butt whooping that you wouldn't believe on them. Except if you thought that was a butt whooping, Utah curb stomps Oregon 62-20 with offensive power that we haven't seen from Utah yet this season. Utah with some performances that they looked good before, but I don't think that anyone really believed them now. I think you have to believe in the Utes now. I really think you have to. They are good, and the Pac-12 just looking deeper and deeper all the time as a conference. Again, I don't think this means that they're deeper than the SEC, and I think everybody wants to wave that flag and say that the years of the SEC are over. I think everyone did get tired of the SEC winning national championships year after year after year, and I think that people around the world, people outside of the SEC, people outside of the South, want that to be over. And they're so willing to want that to be over, they'll jump prematurely at it. We don't like it when people set up dynasties. Okay, this is not how America works. We don't like it in our government because of what that means. We also don't like it in our sports. We like it and we don't like it. People will tune in to watch the dynasty fail. It makes great ratings. Dynasties make for great ratings. All of the advertisers, all of the television networks love dynasties. Love them. Absolutely love them. Everybody else, the fans, we don't like it. We don't like it. This idea of royalty and somebody dominating for ages and ages and ages is why we root against the Patriots. It's why we rooted against the Bulls. It's why we root against LeBron. We don't like it when people dominate. Domination means this kind of lineage that just gets passed on. And because it's sports teams and you don't choose who comes to your team, you don't have any input on that as a fan, then it really does feel even more unfair when someone else gets to keep winning over and over and over again, and you are a Pac-12 team, and everybody's out there ignoring you. So I think that the media and a lot of the fans are moving on from the SEC. I think prematurely because we don't want to hear about the winning anymore. They don't want to hear about it. The SEC is still the tops, folks. Still the tops. And inside of the SEC, the number 2 college football takeaway, Leonard Fournette continues to school youngins and crush fools. And let's not forget here that Leonard Fournette is a sophomore. Okay? Leonard Fournette is a sophomore. Let that just be, let that float in your mind there a little bit. Leonard Fournette still has one more year of college football to play, and I don't know if he gets better than this. Like, how do you get better than this? He's so much bigger and stronger and faster than all of the people around him that it doesn't look fair. Like what he did to Auburn. Like did you see the Avengers movie? Did you see Age of Ultron when the Hulk is in South Africa and then they have to fight him in the Hulkbuster costume? Leonard Fournette looks like the Hulk. He looks like the Hulk. Okay? And people are grabbing onto him and he's just flinging them aside. What do you do about that? You can't do anything about that. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose.
Staying overcast and warm out there through the afternoon. Highs near 80 with a shower or two possible tonight. More scattered showers will move in from the south. Lows upper 60s. A wet day Tuesday with areas of rain. Highs staying into the 70s. A lingering shower possible through Wednesday as well. Mammograms, bone density tests, and many other basic health screenings will be available at Abba's House Health Fair Tuesday, October 13th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more, their website, abbashouse.com/health fair. And I'm WDEF News 12's Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of feeling like just another account number to your financial advisor? Try something refreshingly different. Call Edward Jones Financial Advisor Patrick Neal in Hickson at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bi-Lobe. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156. An alternative to insurance for people of Christian interest is Samaritan Ministries, a cost-sharing group whose fellow members contribute to your medical expenses. Hi, David Tulis here, member of Samaritan Ministries. I have no deductibles, no silly in-network rules. I choose my own doctors. I'm a cash payer and get the cash discount with med providers. I'm 100% compensated by Christian families around the nation who send their checks directly with a personal note and pray for me in my medical distress. I have a family membership. I write a $405 check every month to a person in need. Just love it. Learn more about Samaritan Ministries Tuesday, September 29 at 7 p.m. at Brainerd Hills Presbyterian Church on East Brainerd Road. It's a mini conference on the Christian alternative to medical insurance.
This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. We've gone through all the takeaways of the football weekend, and that just leaves us with the number one takeaway that we will be talking about the most around here. Number one, the Vols lose to Florida for the 11th straight time at the very last second, and Butch Jones finds himself sitting on the toastiest of seats. And we find a lot of things with Butch Jones because he's a likable guy. He's a likable enough guy. He's affable, and he's brought a lot of promise to Tennessee. He's changed the culture in those locker rooms. And I mentioned it before in terms of Jim Harbaugh changing the culture in Michigan. This is the same thing that Butch Jones has done for Tennessee. He's brought culture change, that this idea that you continue to lose and that's okay. Losing is not okay. And when you can take that away from players, you can elevate yourself to another level. You can go up. And on top of that, he's brought in talent that Tennessee didn't have before, that they were not able to get. Part of it was that Tennessee had a couple of coaches that came in and didn't really care about Tennessee, didn't really care about the Vols in the way that if you believe in a historic franchise, that you would actually care about them. They didn't buy in. They just saw it as another job. And Butch Jones doesn't see that. I think he actually wants to take the Vols to another level, but he's got to get better at in-game management. He's done some head-scratching things inside of games, and fans have been criticizing him all season for it. And I think this might be the straw that broke the camel's back. Florida is the team to beat if you're a Vols fan. You do not accept a loss to the Florida Gators the same way you might accept a loss to anybody else. That's what I've learned living here. I'm not from here, but trust me, you can't learn that fast enough. The Vols don't like to lose to the Gators, and the fact that it's been happening for over a decade now, thanks to Butch, is not acceptable. They're not going to accept it. They're not going to sit back and let that happen. And I'm not saying Butch Jones is going to get run out of town. I'm saying his seat is toasty. Okay? I wouldn't call it hot yet. Seat's not hot. You're on the hot seat. That next loss could be your next loss. It could be your last game there. I don't think we're there with Butch. I don't think we're there. But that seat is getting awful warm. Okay? We're above lukewarm now with where he is on that. Because what he did in that Florida game goes beyond reason. When they should have been aggressive, they were conservative. When they should have been conservative, they were overly aggressive. And the difference in winning and losing is sometimes playing to win. And I find that when Tennessee goes up big under Butch Jones, they get a lead, they start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And it hasn't worked out for them even once. It hasn't worked out not even once. It has come back to bite them in the butt every single time. And somebody's just going to have to go, enough is enough. Maybe we get a different decision maker. Because here's the thing. You have promises that are made to people. And Butch Jones has done a very, very good job of understating everything. That's his personality. I understand it because it's my personality too. I don't outright say yes and no to things. I say, you know what? That's kind of how that works. If something definitely works that way, I say kind of instead of outright just promising something. I hate disappointing people. That's just a problem of mine. That's a weakness that I have. I really don't like disappointing others, and for better or for worse. I think there will be times in my life where I need to step up and just be bold about something. But I hate disappointing people so much. I hate to promise something that I can't deliver. And Butch Jones is in a similar way. Butch Jones said before the game that, Florida's defense, it's one of the best defenses he's seen since he's been coaching at Tennessee. And it almost felt to fans like an excuse. They really hated that if you lose to Tennessee, then you could point to that and go, see, I told you their defense was good. Fans really didn't like that. The fans that I was able to talk to on Twitter and other places, on Facebook, and if you listen to the Facebook page, if you go to the Facebook page, rather, you can't listen to it. You can listen to me, though, here on Hot News Talk Radio. You go to the Facebook page, you search Hot News Talk Radio, and answer the question that I've put up there. How do you guys feel about Butch Jones after this weekend? And maybe we can keep that as a weekly Butch Jones update. How do you feel about him? Because he lost a huge game in such a mind-boggling way. The difference between winning and losing that game was a single point. And there were so many things that, like, Will Smith used to say about working hard. You don't accomplish something all at once. Greatness isn't something you achieve all at once. You say you lay it out brick by brick. Today I will get better, so I lay down this brick and I lay down another brick. And you know what? Over time, you've built yourself a wall by laying down a brick at a time. The problem with that is it works two ways. Failure works in both. The brick by brick concept works in both scenarios. It works two ways. Failure works the same way that greatness does. You cannot be great all at once, but you don't fail all at once either. You fail incrementally. Things that you do not do over time add up. And Butch Jones made so many bad decisions. So many bad decisions in that game, and it cost Tennessee the ball game. One of the decisions came when Tennessee was up 20-7 late in the third quarter, and Butch Jones, they were facing a 4th and 6 on their own 25, and Florida was facing 26 on Tennessee 25. And Jim McElwain brought out the kicker, Jorge Powell, for his first career field goal attempt. And so Butch called a timeout. And he said later, because he was afraid that Florida was going to fake it. McElwain then put his offense back on the field. Quarterback Will Greer threw a 21-yard strike to Brandon Powell and Kelvin Taylor and ran for a touchdown a play later. So basically, you gave the opponent an opportunity to reconsider their option. And I mean, that's a bad decision. If they're going to fake it, let them blow the timeout. Let them call the timeout and be prepared. If you thought they were going to fake it, that should have been something that you figured out beforehand. That like, okay, this situationally, they were going to fake it. But Butch Jones, and the thing that's making me upset about him, and I'm not even a Vols fan. I can't even imagine, if you're a Vols fan, how mad you were on Saturday. But if Butch Jones is the way, he seems so situationally unaware of the game. For such a smart guy, that's weird, isn't it? He is so situationally unaware at times. Well, not just at times. I mean, you've got wide receivers, whenever they're playing well, he seems to pull them out. I don't know if you've noticed that. He's out coaching himself, is what he is. He's a perfectly smart guy. He's out coaching himself. He's just thinking too hard, and he's thinking too much. And it's costing the football team games that they ought to win. They were up against Oklahoma. They were up against Florida. How are you losing these games? That's what the fan base wants to know. That's what you all want to know. And there are no answers, because Butch Jones is not making great decisions. And they're little decisions. They're little bad decisions that add up to be really big problems by the end of the game. There's no lead you can keep if you are so hell-bent on being conservative, and if you're afraid of everything your opponent's going to do. What do you mean that you called a timeout because you were afraid they were going to fake it? And at worst case scenario, do what? Pick up another first down? Because the situation that ended up happening afterwards was worse. That they weren't going to fake it. They were just going to out and out bomb it over the top of you. What are you doing? Seriously. It's hard. It's hard to watch, because you can recruit all the talent that you want, but if you are strategically inept or incapable, you're going to lose. And I think that that's the question that we have. And that's the reason why Butch Jones is on the warm seat. He's on the toasty seat. That's the reason why. Because is Butch Jones going to continue to be situationally unaware? You know, Butch Jones has made promises to this team through his recruiting. That's the reason why Tennessee fans loved him. That Butch Jones went out and got himself all the best players. He got all the best players. He got every 5-star, 4-star recruit you could find, okay? Now, I don't follow the recruiting season as much as other people do. That's a whole thing that you can do that it's entertaining. I did it this last season for the first time ever, just followed all the recruiting stuff and the National Signing Day frenzy. You can do that. I'm not in all of that. I might do it next year maybe, because it was kind of fun this year, but I don't follow it as closely. But I will say this about Butch Jones. He recruited a heck of a recruitment class. He brought in a bunch of guys. And the thing that's disappointing with him is that you see where the team has improved, and it's all off the field stuff. But Butch Jones is not getting it done on the field. And my question to you, and the question that this raises, is which is worth more? The guy that can get you a recruiting class, but he'll lose you games you ought to win, or the guy that can't, and he'll lose all the games that he's supposed to, but every now and then he'll win you games that you ought to lose? I wish that Butch Jones were that kind of guy that could win you the games you ought to lose. I'm not even about having to upset everybody, okay? I'm about handling business. I was okay with that loss to Oklahoma. Sure, you shouldn't have blown the lead, should have won that game, but Oklahoma did have the better players. But against Florida, Tennessee's better than Florida. You go down position by position, and add it all up, Tennessee is better than Florida. And the only reason why they lost that game is Butch Jones. He's going to have to take a real long, hard look in the mirror. It's going to be a hard look in the mirror. And it's that look, and everyone has those moments, right? The look in the mirror moment. Like, what did I just do? What have I been doing? What have I become? And anytime, you have a disagreement with family or something like that, and you say something that you shouldn't have said, then you sit down and think about it later and go, wow, I really wish I didn't say that. I really, really wish I didn't say that. That's what Butch Jones is feeling times 10, because his family is the entire University of Tennessee, and the things that he wishes that he didn't do are multiple and nationally televised. It's going to be, that's a hard rock to hide under, and he can't hide. There's nowhere to hide. You cannot blame the players in most cases for that game. It's ineptitude. And it's a harsh way to say it, but that's what it is. It's ineptitude. He followed the charts instead of coaching from common sense. Okay, here's another example. I'll read the excerpt to you from the ESPN article. Gaff number 2 came after Jalen Hurd powered his way into the end zone with 10 minutes and 19 seconds remaining in the game to make it 26-14 Vols. You'd think going for 2 would make it highly improbable for Florida to win in regulation. That would be the call. But Jones said he deferred to a chart that is pretty standard in football that told him to kick, making it a 13-point game. Okay. And he felt very comfortable with the decision. He said, quote, "We just felt like at that stage in the game, we had great confidence in our defense of getting off the football field and allowing them to push the ball down the field. So he felt very comfortable with that decision." Of course, Tennessee's defense then surrendered back-to-back touchdown drives that totaled 145 yards and 14 points, and you end up losing when you had a 13-point lead. So here's the thing, right? That's why you go for 2. That's an inept decision. He had to go for 2. You had to go for 2. Because if you go for 2 and you miss it, they can still beat you with 2 touchdowns. So you change nothing. Whether it's 12 or whether it's 13 points that you are leading by, there's no difference. 2 touchdowns still beats you. But if you make it, if you score the 2 points, okay, then you are up 14 and 2 touchdowns doesn't beat you. They have to work that much harder to beat you. Just bad decision-making by Butch Jones on the weekend. And Vols fans are up in arms today, as they should be. Do we like Butch Jones? Do we want to keep him? His seat is getting hotter and hotter as the weeks go by. He's going to need a signature win or some kind of victory that proves his competence going forward. This is Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Staying overcast and warm out there through the afternoon. Highs near 80 with a shower or 2 possible tonight. More scattered showers will move in from the south. Lows upper 60s. A wet day Tuesday with areas of rain. Highs staying into the 70s. A lingering shower possible through Wednesday as well.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSD